Welcome, everybody, to the Blue Moon Books and Vinyl. And the first thing I want to do is thank Lene and Patrick, the proprietors of this establishment, for running such a great joint. I like to say when I come out of here, I'm always a little bit richer and a little bit poorer for having done so. My name is Philip Larea. I'm a local poet and actually have gone out there in the world. I think my first poem was actually published in Ireland. We're here tonight to celebrate the winter solstice, which is the holiday that I actually do celebrate. It's in the middle of the festival of Saturnalia, which goes all the way back to the Greeks and, more commonly the Romans. It is a time when the quintessential human desire to rise up against the darkness is that's what it's all about. So this is the darkest day of the year, and what do? We light all the candles, we make music, we're in the middle of the hard season for the growers, and the food is starting to run out, and what do? We make huge feasts, and so I just think it's a wonderful way that humanity sort of shakes its fist at the universe and says, by God, you can't have us. So I have prepared some winter poems. Some of them are a little darker, and I promised to end on a couple of lighter notes. In the back of the room by the cookies, where we know you will go, you will find my books. I have two books, We the People and Part-Time Job, as well as a couple of anthologies that I have edited back there. So do take a look at them, and I just remind you all to support your local bookstore. They're staying up late tonight to do this reading, and thank you all for being here. When I was here in April, I was launching a new book. People read it and think it's called Part-Time Job, which I knew they would, but it really is Part-Time Job. I'm going to start with, those who know me know that I am a huge Robert Frost fan. In fact, they were so kind as to send me a limited edition after the last reading, for which I am eternally grateful, and it's in a treasured spot on my bookshelf. Those of you who are Frostophiles at all will recognize some of this, although it's more of a response to Frost than it is an homage. It's called the Eden Tree. This ritual, her most useless day of the year, as essential as birch trees fencing woods to which there is no paved road lined with apple trees. Nothing utilitarian except the defiance. She must drag her sled over the last gold leaves strewn across dry dust before the first big snow. Leathered poncho, boots, gloves, pull for miles, lured by an unseen thrush singing deep within. An unreliable guide at best, she fears. Now she is surrounded by furs and alone. But for an axe, that is her defense and offense. Thwack, pull, inhale, swing, and thwack again. The young pine groans, cracks, the end of it. Sweaty, covered in needles, she ties it down with rope. Hauling a heavy load, she drags her way home. As usual, she pauses at the place where the woods give way to the beaten path and looks back to see if any have been disturbed by her passing, or notice the pilferage of one small Eden tree against short days, long nights, smothering snow. I'm going to jump around a bit. This one is from We the People, which I had not read before. I sort of became known, I invented a form called a tricube. It is 3 stanzas, 3 lines per stanza, 3 syllables per line. So it's 3 cubed. Writer's Digest says it's one of the 10 best short forms ever invented. Here is one. It's called Homecoming. Come winter, we come home, where it's warm, or gone cold, as a hearth smoldering. Blood thicker than water, dried hard, stone. This is not a tricube, but it is a very short poem. And there is always something about the winter solstice, a sense of change, of ends and beginnings. And this is a very short poem that does both. It's called Suitcase in Hand. Cold in the hours between late last night, not yet tomorrow. Suitcase in hand. Door stands halfway open. Day tips, hangs in the balance. I'm going to do the longest and most difficult poem. I'm going to do about 9 poems in all. So you're about a third of the way there. This is a difficult poem. It's a prose poem, and I selected it because it has all of the elements of kind of an odd celebration of winter solstice and in a pagan style. It's called Brewerian Slaves. We cower when they come to our tents at night. Sometimes less often, never not ever, so we do not forget our place. We were taken by this tribe in some war past memory back in my father's grandfather's time. Now we belong. We are valued. Valuable, so they surround us with warriors for protection. We bank their fires each morning. Children forage. Women haul water from the river. Young men fold up tents for another day's march of the army on its belly. We are the belly. Nothing of us is wasted, not even digested age. I am too old to chew, so I teach what is permitted, how to carry on. We are needed. The tribe has needs to fill. We are vessels. Weeks may go by, one no different than the other. We pretend then, until they come to our tents at night, when we remember. Sliver moon after first thaw is their sacred time, the season of new battles. They select a prized Madonna, freshly blooded from among us. Each warrior fills her with seed until she is near death. She is swaddled after in soft skins, borne by all to Bruja Mother, who nurses her back to life. There must be life in the Madonna's belly before battle season begins. 40 times have I witnessed this cycle. Madonna calves in the barren, hungry season. Our gnawed bellies are flaccid. We build a great bonfire to burn all that is dead. Here she is led to where Brujo Father waits with his holy spear. Death, is direct and swift, so revered is she. Bruja Mother holds a chalice beneath the Madonna's heart. All drink her hot, holy blood. Her flesh is roasted for the feast. The babe, knowing neither father nor mother, belongs to the tribe. The tribe wastes nothing. This is how we live, how we have always lived since before memory. This is how we all die, one no different than another, except when they come to our tents at night. Then we remember. This is a bit more lighthearted and a bit more seasonal. It's kind of an experimental poem. It has a really interesting shape to it, as if you can see it. It's called Shh, Say Nothing. Something. Corner of the eye. Secret. And Herod decreed that all must journey to Rainbow's End, and there pay 1 gold piece for each jackass. Please present proof of insurance with payment. Booted and rebooted out of the inn. Nothing is stable in these pregnant days. Fully invested in nothing. Yields nothing. And is tax-free. Nothing is free. Will you share your nothing with me? Shh. It's a secret. Nothing is a secret. Something in the corner. Oh, thank you. Somehow, this has not made it into a collection, and it may never make it into a collection. Another winter poem. Frost is, to me, is the winter poet, and this is an homage to Frost. What do you need to know? That New Hampshire is known as the Granite State, and their license plates read live free or die. You know, the irony of that is that they're made by prisoners, so New Hampshire after Frost. Voluble as weathered granite, these folks. Winter birch has no smart opinion, but burns crackling hot on a frosty night. Taciturn, they take a life in their own hands, cross roads without a walk, don't walk command. Demand you live free or die. So many then immediately disqualified, being neither free nor having quite died. Quiet at the diner today. Flapjacks have no viewpoint, nothing much to say, but just right on the tongue after a dust of snow. I wonder, one day when less noisy, if I will be allowed to live in this state, with plain common sense enough to collect lauds for winter's onslaught while they are free, to burn, in some sense, with whatever sense I have left, rather than bray that I freeze.
Do you have a favorite frost poem?
A favorite frost poem? I do. I'll do it for you. It's called Dust of Snow. The way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rude. That's my favorite frost. I think of it almost daily. Not the one you expected, I'll bet. The holidays, for some people is a joyous time. And for other people, not so much. And as we get older, things pile up on us. Family, tragedies. This is a tricube. It's called Stiff. Here I was, several lifetimes back. And back here, someone else. Different. Colder face. Harsh climate. Stiffening. This is a poem called Goose in Flight. Clouds mislead today's which direction wind strives, drawing lines leading both east and west on a blank sheet of foolscap folio sky. I am a goose to believe haze rides on the current, when it is I who am drifting, left, as if heading true north, right at the onset of winter. Okay, I have now a couple of I like to leave on a happy note. I'm going to do two more for you, and this is on that, there's a feeling that, winter comes and it has this destructive quality, and sometimes that destructive quality is just what we need to be reborn in the spring. And this is a little bit like that. It's called Falling Time. A feeling like water rushing through rusty pipes, cracking iron, seeping through sidewalks, buckling pavement, carrying away street signs, short-circuiting stoplights, vanquishing venerable institutions. Yet I am safe, magically half transformed into some water creature, diving, swimming, dancing, singing within confusion. Still, I am myself, perhaps more. Night falls on my submerged city. Amidst eddy, current, tide, torrent, everything fixed, swept away, one tall tower stands, aglow in the full moon halo. That actually ends We the People. And I'm going to do, the last poem will be the poem that ends Part-Time Job. And it's called Heroes. We weave through the secular section of these semi-sacred grounds, laughing a little because we shouldn't. We giggle over that silliness back in Trafalgar Square when you said, cocking a sly eyebrow my way, Lord Nelson, now that's what I call an erection, but not worth an arm and a leg. I have a sinking feeling this might be the wrong cemetery. How is it possible you don't remember where he is buried, you scold? Irritated, I say that where his remains are is neither here nor there. We pick our way, shoulder to shoulder, like soldiers through a granite minefield, sidestep implacable angels, orthodox crucifixions. You impress a breast against my bicep. That old trick, I think. I have always liked it. Here we lay to his final rest. I forget the rest. Devoted husband and father of, they are forgotten now too. He was, you know. What? Well, devoted anyway. Who? Your father or Nelson? We cannot find my father's plaque, and that time of day is approaching when cemeteries become graveyards. We have done our best. Time to go. Together, heroes of our own travails, we tread lightly back home through the gloom. Thank you all. We have 3 names on the open mic, and hello, good to see you again. Did you get your name down there? I did. You did. As Spencer Tracy once said, there ain't many, but they're church. Pat and Mike, if anybody's old enough to remember that. It was Katharine Hepburn. And before I do, I just want to remind everyone that after the open mic, there are cookies in the middle shelf, and they have the most phenomenal selection of poetry, rare books, anywhere. You know, and you're gonna, you all have a head start on me, and so you may get there before I do. But by all means, to put it crassly, ring the register. I had so much fun introducing our open mics, and I just met this young man, 76 years young, who has accomplished a great deal in his second life. Please welcome up Jim Wolfe.
This poem is called Weather Report 1945. It had been snowing for 3 days, I can remember. The snow had killed 2 farmers down the road and 32 of their cows. They were frozen and buried, one halfway between the barn and the summer kitchen, and the other his son at the pasture gate. The cows were lined up like white stuffed animals, stiff, huddled, their front legs buckled, frozen, waiting for the farmers to open the door in the barn. The next morning, a bigger storm. They drove out from town at its peak and knocked on the front door. 2 officers from the Army, huddled like white stuffed animals, stomping their feet like cows on the porch, apologizing, telling my mother that her husband had died a hero on a snowy hillside near Berlin. My mother stood at the window all day, watching the snowfall, squinting, trying to see Germany, imagining him on that snowy hillside, knees buckled, a wad of chewing gum frozen now in his beautiful mouth, a glowing red halo staining the snow, a half-frozen poem in his button tunic pocket. The government car had long disappeared into the opaque white swirling storm. Its curved tracks remained, their ruts gradually filling in sometime during the night. And this one I have to read because someone asked to hear it. And I wrote this sitting at a coffee shop one day, so. It's called The Touch. Once upon a time in the afternoon, in brilliant slanted sun, they sat, sipping coffee, late in their golden years. She smiles, he touches her, lightly on the chin like breath. She blinks. He touches her, fingertips lingering on her sweatered arm. She winks. He smiles, lifting one fallen silver strand from her forehead. Her eyes are harem-veiled, filtering loss and pain for him this afternoon. There are no secrets in these touches and looks anymore. They needn't speak ever. All of the words have been said. Passion carried them this far. His touch, the forehead, silver hair, lifting one could be his last. Sad. 5 decades of beginnings never taught them to think about endings. It's easier for one to turn away instead of weeping face to face. He wanted to touch her again. Her beautiful porcelain knuckle clenched between her teeth halted the moment. They are almost each other's memories now, clearer than God's. The coffee, the sun, the love. He touched her forever, once upon a time. And I lived almost 60 years in Chicago, so my winter solstices were different than yours. So I wrote one about yours. It doesn't have a title, but maybe it's called Sacramento Solstice. The valley frozen in frost, brittle backlight ballet frozen in mid-leap. The sun that travels slowly to us in this valley releases its desert and Sierra duties and blinds forever the dog peeing in the yard. The potted plants near death, the dog's stain still steaming, my white beard afire. This sudden projectile of warmth and streaked heat melts frozen on my tongue. Aww. Thank you.
I don't know if it was just me, Jim, but I swear I heard a little echo of Frost and maybe a little Simon and Garfunkel in the second. All my favorite people. Really well done. Jim tells me he was voted the best new poet in Oregon. Is that correct? Yeah. So you've got years and years to work on California yet. Well done. That was absolutely delightful. I'm very glad that's on YouTube. Kathy, are you ready to be immortalized? Kathy Kendall? Cottle? Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Well, I brought this book that belonged to my grandmother. She passed on in 1988. It was published in 1996 by Walnut Grove Press, and it's the Book of California Wisdom. I thought it was quite interesting, and it's got Robert Frost quotes in it. Robert Frost says, "Happiness makes up in height for what it lacks in length." And also Robert Frost says, "You have freedom when you're easy in the harness." And I like Johnny Carson says, "You have to be at the right place at the right time, but then you have to be ready." But it's by Californian quotes, people from California, and it's quite a long book, and it's got a couple paragraphs that open up for each quote section. It has, let's see, 101. It has chapter 1 is California, chapter 2 is nature, change, happiness, all-purpose advice. That might have some good ones in there. But yeah, it was funny you should say Robert Frost. Walt Disney says, if you can dream it, you can do it. Tom Bradley, who I don't know who that is, says, the only thing that will stop you from fulfilling your dream is you. And just thought it was I was born in Sirius myself, and I've been in California most of my life, except for a little time up north. But I've been here in Sacramento since 1989. I live just around the corner, and I walk by here quite a bit. But I've never been in here, but I saw you were having a poetry reading, so I thought that was pretty neat, so I wanted to come in.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for sharing. And you knew where the Robert Frost was, right? One of my favorite Robert Frost quotes. It's a little darker, and right at the end of his life, and he said, "I can sum up everything I know about life in 3 words: it goes on." So much for the gentle, curmudgeonly poet. Oh, we're going to finish with the last time I was here, a young gentleman came up who looks astoundingly like Mark Zuckerberg, in my opinion. Now I got you, right? Yeah, Mark, I think you grew the beard before that. Just delightful. It's a great way to close out the evening. And Jeremiah, I hope Jeremiah Lovrich, treat us to some good words. Welcome.
So I just have one. This is a poem I wrote for when my kids were much younger than they are now. But it kind of came out of, and then I kind of reapproached it and reworked it a little bit when I saw that horrible movie Pete's Dragon with my kids a couple of years back. So I think so much is lost when dragons suddenly become friendly, benevolent creatures, right? When they're, throughout most of human history, they're the symbol of something that's terrifying, right? And real and scary. And, we need to be on our defense about these. Dragons, for Lucy and Jack. There are no dragons I can slay for you, my dear. No dragons. They're all now dead and gone. Beowulf's bane, buried beneath some suburb in Frisia, her iron teeth etched by the bones of men, laying calcified and rumbling against the indignity of decay. Tarask, stunned by holy water, dragged by St. Margaret into the town square, clubbed to death by mace and flat edge of falchion, entombed beneath a rude-topped pile of shields on the banks of the Rhone. The red, 10-headed dragon of Revelation, swallowed by the abyss, writhing, chained, and stone-bound in the cavernous heart of the earth, floundering in the fiery pool of sulfur where Gog and Magog shriek, where the beast corpse stinks and the birds gorge themselves. The dragon god of Babylon, bloated by cakes of boiled pitch and goat hair from Daniel's hand, burst asunder in the temple, his smoking entrails dripping down the walls. The great Leviathan, neck cut by the transcendent gleaming sword, harpooned, dragged aboard the byreme, minced to chunks and strewn on the sea to rejoin the primordial ooze of Mare Nostrum. The plague worm of Selene, lured by the sacrificial maiden whale on the misty moors where St. George rode, and wounded, harnessed by the princess's girdle, glaive flayed in the sunny public noon before the castle walls, his quartered body ox-carted and scattered on the fields on the outskirts of town. Fafnir, drooling with vengeance, ravenous across the moat, met by the submarine sword of Sigurd, buried hilt deep in his soft abdomen, twisting tail lash belly up, the acidic blood clotting among the reeds. And even the metaphorical ones, whose metallic hides drape over hangers in dusty closets, wings neatly folded, labeled, stacked on shelves, their eyes pickled in jars. No dragons to slay for you, little one. No more dragons. Only this stab of shadow emerging now in the tight, hot dark. And that I can kill.
Wow.
Thank you.
Ah, man after my own heart.
Did you read
I'll-
that to your children when you went to bed?
I meant it to them only recently.
Okay.
So
I was a little confused there.
Lene, I don't want to put you in a hole, but somewhere in this bookshop, have you got Mists of Avalon? Marion Zimmer Bradley?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, somebody seek that out because one, it's just one of the best books, particularly for the women in the audience. It is it's told essentially, it's the Arthurian legend told from Morgana's point of view, and it's just a wonderful telling. And I'm an Arthurian, and I was delighted by Jeremiah's poem. And I looked at my clock, and I noticed we'd only gone like 35 minutes, and so I want to make sure that you get your tuition's worth here tonight. And so I think I'll close with that. Then we'll go for cookies and books and vinyl. And this is very much in keeping with the winter solstice and what we call the old ways. Some people call it Druidism, but the old ways. Jeremiah, you're going to get a kick out of this, I think. It's called Merlin's Dream. He is stunned, inanimate. Is this how it happened? There is no order to his memory. Has it happened yet? Uther's sulphurous dragon fog curls at the edge of the old wizard's mind, refuses to dissipate. Now it seems to crawl back in on the fickle mistral. What progeny could one foresee from such an ill wind? All so confusing, this future foretold in retrospect. Is that Igraine or Guinevere enthralled, undone by the return of her lord? Merlin licks his licentious lips, catharsis for ravishment. Conquest and carnality ever intertwined until the moment comes. Too late or too soon? Unbidden, Morgana swirls before him. Archimedes persists in the question. Who could rise from this swamp? But the wizard has forgotten his name. Principles not invoked for a millennium. Be content, Sir Owl. Is it not enough for you that the night has fallen? With that, I thank you and turn you loose to shop till you drop. 3 days till Christmas.